guys, we are back at E3 with even more news, and I found a particular gem of a game hidden away, one that I've been particularly excited about, and it is Lords of the Fallen. Now, this game has just got, it's got challenging basically stamped on its forehead.
Thank you.
Before we get into kind of the details of the game, as a studio, when you're making a game, how do you make a game challenging and not frustrating? Because that's a fine line to walk.
And it's extremely good question, because I perceive that part of our job as the most challenging. Yeah. Seriously, because what we try to do is we try to break down all the elements of the games that we've been looking up to and that we've been using as a reference. And then we came up with an idea, let's create our own scale of between challenging and punishing, or rewarding and frustrating, however we call that. And then we said, okay, so let's seek examples, and we actually managed to find a few environmental deaths, the frequency and distribution of checkpoints, for example, and so on, a lot of things. And then we said, let's reduce or remove certain parts of that, trying to make sure that we keep the level of the challenge intact. And I believe, especially looking at how people play this game and judging by the reception that we have, it still looks like a fairly challenging game. I really want anybody to make no mistake that this is a game about trying to overcome the challenge, and the process of trying to repeat certain parts of the game is built into it, and it will happen in this game. Still, the most important element of how you tackle that and what is the outcome of that, I believe not too many people will be frustrated by it. And this is our goal, this is our dream, this is what we're after. That's Lords of the Fallen.
Like, put it into context, we're here at E3, so imagine how many people have got hands-on with this game so far. Only 2 people have managed to defeat the boss. So that gives you some idea of the talent.
Apart from the devs and people who are presenting the game, yes. Two of the guys, because one of the things is the challenge, but we're trying to, this is actually a reward for anybody who defeats the boss in here. And the other thing that we're trying to do is that each person has half an hour to try to do this. And this fragment of the game is designed to be more of a 35-40 minutes. So there's even greater challenge that there will be in a game itself, in a final game itself. So it's interesting.
The game itself is very high fantasy. The demo we've been playing is kind of set in a castle environment, all very closed in. Is the game quite closed in, or does it open out into kind of area spaces?
It's both. There are the 3 main worlds in this game, and each one of these worlds is a different setting in terms of the feel and the mood, and each one of them includes more open or more closed environments. So generally it's a mixture, and we believe, and while designing this game, it was important for us to make this feeling of changing and dynamics quite important. So when you're walking through the main part of the game, you will feel that sometimes it closes down, and sometimes it's open up, and you will get that feeling of narrowing down and opening up. And generally it works like the world of the game is, there are more of fragments of it and then sub-worlds, however we call them. But when you open up a new area of the world of the game, the old one is never locked down from you. So all the time it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And what is even more important is when you get back to a certain part of the world that you've been before, it's quite possible, quite likely that certain areas will unlock, new elements of the world will unlock, and it's not only possible but also encouraged to re-explore in this game.
So when we're starting the game, we're picking our character. Have we got a character kind of class system, or can you develop anything? So are we picking mage or warrior or rogue, or are we one character and kind of go off from there?
There is a class system in this game, but the character development in Lords is based on 3 main elements. One of them is the magic, the supernatural powers, extremely powerful, and I think very spectacular in terms of look as well. The other one is attributes and the statistics of a character, and the third one, I think the most complex one, is the gear, the weapons, the armor, the shields that you use. You craft them, some of them have perks, a lot of stuff, and only one of them is bound to your class. So there is warrior, cleric, and rogue, and each one of these classes have different type of magic, because we believe that that's what we wanted to make manifest the playing style of players. So when you choose warrior, for example, you're going to be a brawler who gets in a crowd of opponents. Well, crowd of opponents in this game is 2 or 3. Anyways, if you do that, you can get ahead, but you deal more damage. That's warrior. If you're a rogue, that means you want a very quick, efficient, and stealthy assassination. That is going to be that type of magic. Cleric, of course, regenerative things, tanking enemies, you know. So this is pretty much what we're trying to lock down with the types of magic, and this is what manifests the class. Apart from that, you can mix and match anything. So you can be battle mage, for example. So yeah.
That sounds pretty good, actually. The weapons we're seeing then, are we just able to find weapons from defeating enemies, or do we get certain weapons and can we level them up? Or is it, actually, I've out-leveled this weapon and now it's no good to me, anything stronger?
There were two questions in here.
See what I did there? I'm trying to confuse and trying to throw him off.
Almost got me. So answering to one of these questions is some of the weapons you will most of the weapons you will find in certain predetermined locations. Okay. And the other thing is, and some of them will drop from the enemy. So it's a mixture, but generally more on the side of everything being distributed in certain parts of the world, in chests and secret areas and all that. But regarding the leveling or the scaling, some of the weapons, probably most of them, or at least half of them, will scale with some of your attributes. And because of that, for some of the weapons, it's not possible to out-level them because the damage will always grow with you. And that means that there are weapons that are efficient and are worth using till the very end of the game, if you even find them at the beginning. But it all depends on your playing style, because the stats of the weapon is just only one of the factors that there is, because each weapon has a different moveset. And there is also a different element of tactics and strategics in this game, so you might want to... It's complex.
Sounds good though. So when we are attacking, how do we do? Have we got stamina? Do we have sort of classic MP for when we're using magic? How does that work?
We do have hit points, we do have energy points, and we do have mana points, magical points, however we call them. And it all depends on types of actions that you use. Of course, hit points, that's easy. You use them for taking damage. That's a nice way of putting it. You use them for taking damage. Never heard that one before. Anyways, energy is, of course, most of your actions consume that, even blocking, for example. And I believe management of the energy is one of the most important elements of Lords, especially for people who have not played a lot of games like this. When I've seen a lot of people, that's the first hands-on we're giving, so it's a very interesting experience for me and for all of the dev team people that are here. And a lot of people who don't know that type of games, it's like, because this is going to be one of the first and one of the most important tutorials in the game, that energy is very important. When they don't, because this build doesn't have the tutorial, we need to tell them, because they don't know, and trying to manage this is so important. Also, like things like locking the camera, this is also an important element of this game. So and magical points are really interesting, because one of the things that you use them for is spells. Spells are by design and by far the most powerful element of how you fight. Of course, there are weapons that deal huge amount of damage, but spells, they're always something that is very that is used in the most tight situations. When things spike, when difficulty spike, you can always try to use a spell. It consumes most of your magical energy. Of course, if you level it up, you have more of that still. And there's also a gauntlet, very interesting, unique, and one-of-a-kind magical weapon that you have. And you have different modes of that gauntlet. Each mode can be crafted in a different way, so there's a lot of combinations, but Gauntlet also uses the same magical energy, just smaller amount of it, and it also, the damage of that increases with your magical stats, and so on and so on and so on. Did I mention it's complex?
Yeah. It is getting complex, but that's also some of the charm though, right? You can sit and get lost in this.
It's like a thick book. Yeah. I like to think of it as a thick book, because there are elements of Lords for these people who like to treat games like a action movie, sit down, let me be entertained, there is that, but like the complexity of the mechanics of the game, it's more of for those people who like to read through 600-page instruction before they actually sit down to the game. Yeah, this is for them.
Love it. Now, the final question, I'm afraid, is going to be one you probably get quite a lot. If someone watching this is a particular fan of a game, maybe a game like Dark Souls.
Go on.
Would you say this is their kind of game? Do you think this maybe, oh, if you play these kind of games, Lords of the Fallen is for you?
Yeah, I think one of the priorities and principles of development of Lords is to keep intact the level of challenge, the type of challenge, because our dream as a developer, I don't want to use the word tribute, but our way of looking up to games like this is the feeling of satisfaction, the feeling of reward when you overcome a challenge in games like Souls, the one that you have mentioned, is so strong and addictive. Right? It's like one of the best hormones that you could get, the completion of a challenging game, and we dream of giving that type to even more people that Souls ever did. I mean, that would be awesome. We would be extremely fulfilled as a developer. We'll see. Of course, we have to see when the game comes out, how people react to it, but this is our goal. This is what we're after.
It's a really good goal. It's a really good goal to have. Thank you so much for your time. Lords of the Fallen is looking amazing. We hope to have loads more of it on the channel soon. You guys can stay tuned because there is loads more coming up from E3.